Erika Wasserman is a certified financial therapist who makes money conversations empowering and fun. She is helping you transform your financial stress to give you clarity, confidence, and lasting behavioral change. From IBM to financial wellness, Erika is your go to for transformation. Erika, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. I can't wait. So this has been on my calendar for a little while now. And I know, Tracy, when you and I get together, it is a dynamic conversation because both of us don't hold back. So, for your listeners here, this is going to be fun because you'll get to kind of see what it's like to get two women that aren't afraid to talk about money, talking about money in real life terms.
Yeah, don't mess with us when it comes to our money, and don't mess with us when it comes to the advice that we're going to give you about handling your money, taking control, etc. And today I wanted to talk with you about emotions of money because you are a financial therapist. But more specifically, I wanted to talk about your brand new book that is coming out this week. It is called Conversations with Your Financial Therapist: Stories and Scripts to Grow Your Money Mindset. How excited are you about this book?
Okay. It was scary to write a book. I don't know about you, but for me, it was a really scary thing to do. But for me, my passion is helping people have these conversations and being able to have a conversation around money because we're not taught it. And so what happens is when you're not comfortable with doing something, you don't see it around you, you're not taught in the classroom or at home, a lot of times avoidance happens. And when we avoid things like a toothache, they get worse and more painful. So the book is coming out to help people. It takes 7 characters through different life transitions from like at 19 when Madison gets a flat tire and the guy at the car dealership. By the way, side note, I hate going to a car dealership as a woman.
Absolutely.
And so she gets a flat tire and the guy was like, "Great, just open up a credit card because, that's what you need to do to get new tires. You don't need 1, you need 4." Voila, at 19, she's in credit card debt. So anyway, so the book takes these characters through different life transition of merging money, separating money, co-parenting, aging parents, everything in between. Um, but you asked me about the exciting part, and I really am excited to share with this. As a kid, not even as a kid, with my kids, I watch Shark Tank. Do you ever watch Shark Tank?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Barbara Corcoran, the shark on Shark Tank,
Yeah.
has endorsed this book.
That is so exciting. For those who don't know, endorsements of books are really important because it gives you some legitimacy. It says, "Hey, this person who you've heard of who is important has read it and thinks it's got great things in it." And so we as authors really rely on those to help us promote our books, etc. So that is super exciting.
Yeah, I met her, sharing a stage in February, and if you know her life story, came from nothing, built her own business, cheating husband, the whole 9 yards, very similar to my story. And so what happened then is she was like, "More people need to hear about this." And that's what we're trying to do is just getting people talking about money. And when you're able to talk about money, it leads you to options and opportunities, which is I know how you help people navigate their systems, their life as well. On the other side is once you see the money, what choices can you make?
Well, yeah, what I'm focused on really is women. And a big part of where I focus my time is women who are getting divorced. But even if you're not getting divorced, if you're after divorce, if you're in a happy marriage, if you're single, dating, it doesn't matter. The thing that's so important is taking control of your money because what I see every day, every week with my clients is a hands off approach to the money. Because you're right, we haven't been taught how to manage money. I grew up in a home where we didn't have a lot. We had enough, and my parents made it work, but we didn't have a lot. And I knew inherently that my mom budgeted and she clipped coupons and she made things work so that I could take dance lessons or whatever the case may have been. But I didn't know how she did that. I didn't really know how the bills got paid. And so I never learned financial management. I learned some of the steps, like here's how you write a personal check, but I didn't know how was I gonna budget. And so I came into adulthood having no idea how to manage my money. I knew I was expected to be responsible with it, but how is that gonna happen?
Right, because they just, you fall out of the nest. And it's like, great, go get an apartment, go get a car loan, but nobody's talking to you about all of those things. And so what happens is we make decisions based on around us, experiences, what we hear in the media, what our friends are doing, not based on facts. And so it can be really, really scary. And most of us make mistakes. By the way, everybody's made a financial mistake. Let's just clear the air on that. And have you made a financial mistake before?
A lot of them. A lot of them.
Yeah.
From buying the wrong item, to lending money to the person who was never gonna pay it back, to making a mistake that ultimately ends up, costing me a bunch of money. Here's a great one. I got years ago, like 10 years ago, I got into a little fender bender with a car that I had leased. And so I had a damaged fender and I went and had it repaired, and it cost me, like, I don't know, 1,500, $2,000 to get that repaired, and I had to do that because my lease was almost up, and I knew I needed to turn in a car that was up to snuff. So I go on the day to turn in the car on the lease, and the guy at the car dealership says, "Oh, great. When you leased this car, you purchased the accident protection. So if you had gotten into any accidents or gotten any dents in this, it would have been covered up to," and it was whatever the coverage was well beyond what I paid to have that damage repaired. And I was like, I had no idea. First of all, it's not like me to purchase that kind of protection because I usually am willing to take my chances. But second, the fact that I forgot that I had purchased it and had paid out of pocket, dumb financial mistake.
Yeah, and look, we all do it. So anybody who's listening, just know that, and the way I equate it, I'm working with a doctor right now, married to a doctor, about to go through a divorce, dad was a doctor, first generation. Do you see a trend here? In her mind, she's not allowed to make a mistake.
Right.
Mistakes are not made. But here's what happens. You're so focused on being great at what you're doing. That's like me walking in and having to read Latin, like a prescription. Like, I don't know how to do this. It wasn't taught to me. So, why would you expect to know finances when culturally it was the man who did the finances? So, what's happening now for her is she's paralyzed to make a decision. And what's happening is people around her are making the decisions for her by default because she's not confident in her relationship with money.
Mm.
And that's where I come in, is how I work with people to build the confidence, because it's not a skill, like we keep saying, that we work on. Or when you make a mistake, like a bad haircut, you just be like, it's going to grow out and I'm going to move on and I'll be fabulous again in a month. Oftentimes it just takes us down of like, I made a mistake. I'll never mindset. I'll never recover from this.
Erica, I need a financial therapist. That stupid fender bender happened 10 years ago, and I still beat myself up for that wasted money because I sit here and think, my gosh, if I had had that 1,500 bucks in an investment account for the last 10 years, imagine how much money that would be today. Like, how do we get beyond this kind of stuff?
It's interesting, I just met a woman at an event this weekend who has a check, $250,000 check from her father's inheritance sitting in her closet for way too long. Talk about compound
No.
interest right now, high yield savings accounts, right? My brain was going because she was afraid to invest it. And she
Oh,
wanted it to have purpose and not commingled with her family money. She wanted it. And if you just sat and understood what that money meant, right? What did that mean? If it was from an inheritance or like you're getting from a divorce settlement, what do you want that purpose for that money? And sometimes what I do is I have people visualize it. And you could go for a walk, you could sit in a chair, you can close your eyes. But like, what does life look like with that dollar amount?
well, here's a chance for me to give some advice to everyone out there. No matter what you're dealing with, whether it's a money issue, whether it's something else personally or life, working with professionals is so important, because if she had been working with a financial advisor and she had gone to that financial advisor and said, "Hey, I'm getting $250,000 in an inheritance. I'm scared to death about it. I don't want to lose it. I don't know what to do as far as investing." That professional could have said to her, "Hey, listen, we can take it. We can put it somewhere safe, like a high yield savings account where you're going to earn some money on it, but nothing else is going to happen to it until you decide what's best to do with
So
it."
let me build on that because we had that conversation. Guess what? She doesn't like her advisor. She doesn't feel comfortable talking to her advisor. And this woman is a very successful woman, I'd probably say mid-50s, and does not like the advisor, so won't have the conversation with him. And I'm like, "Oh, did him?
I've got the advisor for her. Like, I'm, like, dying to make a
Well,
referral right now.
believe me, I put a phone call in afterwards. I'm like, "You're with the wrong person if you can't sit and have that conversation to say,
Yeah.
'This money means something to me. I want it to align with my values.'" And if your advisor I'm not an advisor, right? I'm the emotional side, but your advisor should listen and understand what your values are. And if you're not with the right advisor, back to having the right professionals, now's a great time to change because you should be able to ask those questions. And change is scary, just like writing the book was scary for me, right? It's scary, but if you don't take
Yes.
that step, you're only getting better at what you're doing right now.
And by the way, once your advisor understands your advisor should not be saying, "Now do this." Your advisor should be saying, "I hear you. I understand your values. Here are 3 options that I have for you, and I wanna tell you the pros and cons of each of them to help you make a decision about them," right? Someone who's bossing you is not gonna be the right person.
Mhm.
Until if you say, "I've heard the 3 options. I've heard your pros and cons. I'm not really sure which is the best. What would you recommend?" Then they're allowed to tell you what they would do.
Here's interesting things. Your audience is women, so hello, gals. Women look for advisors differently than men. We're looking to be s we look for advisors like we date.
Ooh,
We wanna be seen, we wanna be heard, we wanna be part of the solution, you wanna be part of the storytelling, not just an end result. So if you're not getting that type of support, again, good time to look around, ask a friend that maybe has gone through a divorce. CDFAs know a lot of advisors. That's a certified divorce financial advisor that helps you in that middle process of, and then they can also refer you out, or I'm sure Tracy and I can give you some referrals as well. But it goes back to building confidence. So I'm trying to empower people to have the confidence in the relationship with money. So that when they show up at your desk or they show up at your advisor's desk or their accountant every year, because by the way, now that you're flying solo, you have to file your taxes, which means you might have to sit down with their accountant as well and ask some uncomfortable questions.
you know what's so great about working with good professionals is they will have a process for you. They will have a checklist. They will say, "Okay, each year we need to accomplish these things. We're going to have a meeting once in spring, once in fall. We're going to talk about this and this." Like good professionals have a process for you because they know this kind of stuff is overwhelming. Let's break it down. Let's put a checklist in place and we'll get it all done one by one.
All right, hold on, because you're a checklist girl, right?
I'm a checklist girl.
Okay, so there's 2 different people in the world, more than that. But there's the hows, you're a how. Like, "How are we gonna get this done? Give me a checklist. Check, 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 check."
Yep.
Then there's the wow. So now this is gonna be the person that's like, "Wow, I get to build my new life." And that's gonna be sitting on a beach in Croatia. I have no idea, right? On a
Yeah. I've
houseboat,
heard it's beautiful.
in a cabin in, Utah, like, big visual person. So if you're a big vision, that checklist might not work for you. So while you're looking for people, make sure it's somebody that fits your personality, but that's
Yeah.
not also a big idea person because you also need to get some actions done. So ask yourself, if you're the big idea person, when was the last time you were successful at getting a task done, doing something hard? And then can you replicate it here? It might be breaking into 15-minute segments. It might be, I love a good, for my ADHD clients, set a playlist. So do 2 or 3 music, like songs that you like, and that's what you do your money work to. Any hype music, whatever you need, or even some background or, waves or whatever it is. And instead of setting a timer, during that playlist is when you're focused on your financial tasks.
I'm so bossy and I'm like, "Do it my way. Here, checklist, boom, 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 check the things off." You're totally right. This is not correct to say that this works for everyone. I wanna back up a little bit because this conversation has gone in a different direction than I planned, but I love it. But I really wanna know, like, what financial therapy is. I don't think a lot of our listeners know that financial therapy is a real thing. So I wanna know, like, what it is and how you specifically got into it.
Yeah, so financial therapy is a real thing. That's the first thing I need to say. Um, I I'm one in 100 right now that are certified in this field. It is growing and needed. They did a Harvard study, Daniel Kahneman. that 90% of our financial decisions are emotional and 10% are logical. So the logical piece, the accounting piece, the taxes, the financial advising, your bank statement, that's the logical piece. The 90%, we don't have a place to talk about it. We're not encouraged to grow your relationship with money, to understand your habits. And so that's where I come in. So you asked me how I got here. Well, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. I think probably like most lives. I had a great relationship with my dad talking about money. I didn't realize that as a kid that that wasn't normal. But we'd be driving to the grocery store and you'd be like, 2 cans of beans are 99 cents. How much is 1 can of beans? And he knew I enjoyed math. So all of a sudden, every place we went was a math equation at the checkout counter. Pulled out the money, "Erica, you do this," right? So I would figure out how much change I was getting, and if it was a good day, I would get to keep the change. And so my love for math grew. I got a degree in finance from University of Florida, went into consulting with IBM, lived up to the words, I'd been moved, so moved 9 times in 12 years. Along that way, met a boyfriend, moved into an apartment in New York City together, got married, moved overseas, lived in Japan, had my first daughter there, moved to China, moved back, had 2 more kids, and rapid fire got divorced with 3 kids under the age of 4 and left corporate America. So that roller coaster ride we were just talking about, like everything I was just talking about sounded really good and like up, and then it went really fast down with a big swoosh. I moved back to South Florida, engaged back with my parents, being a part of our daily lives, and my dad was my accountability partner through all of this. And the difference was during my divorce was I was the CFO of our family. And so it led me to options and opportunities. So one day I was laying on the floor. I was 35, 3 kids under the age of 4, 2 crawling over me, 1 sleeping in the corner. And my daughter's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm meditating." Like, I'm trying to find purpose in my day, and, like, a two-year-old's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Well, do you wanna paint today? Like, what do you wanna do today?" And I asked myself 3 questions was my practice. Who am I? What do I want? And what's my purpose? The purpose took a long time to get to, and when I did, it was to help people take the higher road during tough times. 10 years later, when I heard the term financial therapist, it was like life stopped for me, and I knew that that's what it was meant for me to be. And I went to Kansas State. There's 4 colleges now that have programs and got a graduate certificate in financial therapy and then got certified through the Financial Therapy Association. And here I am helping others talk about money in all sorts of life transitions. Unfortunately, my dad did pass away in 2017. And without knowing, my mom was my first client.
Wow. Your book talks about money mindset, which we've mentioned a couple of times, and I know that's a really big focus. And I want to talk about that because um, I know that the money mindset is so critical to how we manage our money, how we have the money conversations with our partners, and things like that. But I think the general public, they may have heard money mindset and they're like, what does that mean? Like how I think about money? Like, I don't know that they know the practical application or why this is so important. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So I'll equate it to something that we do every day. Well, eat.
I was gonna say eat. I eat every
I
day.
eat every day, right? And and I like to lose weight often as a, middle-aged woman, right? Like, we're always talking
That's
like,
always fun.
right? I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. I'll never lose 10 pounds, right? I'm never gonna be the weight I want. All of these that's mindset, right? So what if I said, I'll always be fat? I hate that word, by the way, right? But if I walked around saying that all day versus I'm living a healthy lifestyle.
I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna bring up, like, I changed my way of thinking a few years ago. Instead of thinking, "I'm gonna lose 5 pounds this month," I changed to focus on, "I'm going to be healthier this month. I'm gonna do things that make me feel strong, like ride my bike twice a week." That was a huge shift for me when it came to keeping my weight under control.
Yep. And so let's now apply it to finances. I'm always bad with money.
No.
I'll just be in credit card debt, right? I mean, these are things we hear all the
Yeah.
time versus I'm working on building my credit score or I'm building a savings account for that vacation to Europe. Whatever it is, now all of a sudden it's an action word. Your mindset has shifted into doing something healthy and positive versus keeping you in the negative.
Well, and certainly Society sends women in particular a lot of negative messages about money. I was never a fan of the stupid meme about girl math because I felt that was derogatory to women, and it was reinforcing the idea that you're bad with money or you can't do numbers or that kind of stuff. Society seems to enforce that kind of stuff, and that's why I think changing your own personal mindset about it is so important,
The cool thing is 50 years ago, we couldn't even you and I couldn't even get a car loan. So I'm
right?
single with 3 teenage daughters, like, I joke I live in a sorority house at this point, but I own my own home, I own my own car, I run my own business, where 50 years ago, I couldn't get lending for any of that to be who I am. So as the great wealth transfer is happening, more women are in control of their finances, we need to keep those conversations going because the confidence building and the communities look, as women, we're great at building communities and conversations, and so the money mindset method that I created is going to help with that. It takes the word money, 5 letters, and it gives you a framework to have those conversations. Starting with M, I'll give you a tease. The M is make the conversation comfortable. So you and I right now, we already had our coffee, our water, the temperature's okay. We're not in a rush. We're making this conversation comfortable. Think about that the next time you're about to have a financial conversation. Don't do it with a friend, a partner, or even with yourself when you're hungry, when you're cold, when you're rushing out the door. Is look at the time of day and check in with yourself. When you're ready, shoulders back, sit down and start the conversation.
Okay, so we wanna have that conversation, but how do we start it? Especially with our partner is what I'm thinking about, right? Because I talk a lot about love and money in relationships, and I think that people have a hard time like, it's uncomfortable. Maybe we disagree about how to handle money. How do we get that started?
Okay. On average, it takes 5 months to say I love you to somebody. And I love asking this question because the answers vary, but it takes on average 9 months to know somebody's credit score, credit debt. So you're in love with somebody before you understand their financial patterns, which is no reason why, which is no surprise why people end up one of the main reasons for divorce or breaking a relationship is money. So, starting the conversations in a storytelling way is really nice. So, we go out to dinner together, you open the menu, maybe you're in a nice restaurant, and be like, oh, as a kid, I can only order from the right side of the menu or the left side, wherever the appetizers are, or the kids' meal until I was 21, whatever it is. And now you're sharing a little bit about your background. Um, Without being like, "Oh, we grew up this way," or my mindset is, dinners are only saved for birthdays, and now I love going to dinners, etcetera. Whatever your relationship is, it's storytelling to learn about somebody and asking questions. Interesting enough, I created a deck of cards called Let's Talk Finances. See if they're on my desk. Um, because that was the number one question that I kept being asked is, I don't know how to start the conversation around money. So these are conversation cards, like you see so many other conversation cards where you could pick it up to say, "Did you get allowance as a kid? What did you do with it?"
Right?
And grab it on a car ride, walking the dogs, and you can start having some conversations in that storytelling format.
One of the ideas I like to use is dreaming is fun. And so if you're looking for a conversation starter, talk about some sort of dreams that involve money. So a really easy one. And I say, ask this on your first date. Like, first date is not too early to talk about money. Ask them if you won $1 million tomorrow. What's the first thing you'd go out and buy? Or if you won $1 million, what would you do with it? Because someone might say, the first thing I'm going to do is take half of it and put it in a really safe savings account or investment because it's really important to me to protect that money. And then I'm going to decide what to do with the other half. That tells you so much about their money thoughts without being a threatening thing because it's fun to dream about what if I won the lottery, right?
Yeah. So interesting enough, Market Watch, which is very business oriented, did an article a few months back. Can you use a coupon on a first date?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Really? Oh, see, I
Yes.
said no. I said no. I said you could use a coupon like once you're a few dates in and there's a conversation of like, hey, I have a mini golf coupon. But on a first date for me would be a turnoff. And so these are money symbols and signs that are showing up everywhere and could be funny conversation starters.
See, I wanna date someone who would be so thrilled at the fact that we got a 2 for 1 on the first date. Like, I'd present it in a cute and fun way, like, "Hey, listen, I've got a buy one, get one dinner coupon for this such and such a restaurant that I really, really like. I'd get a kick out of it if we went and used that coupon on our first date. Are you game?"
Right,
Right?
and the right person for you would say yes. The wrong person would be like,
Correct.
"Our money mindsets don't
Right.
align."
And I'm okay with, like, eliminating that person who thinks that that's stupid because we don't align and we don't need to go on the date.
Yes. See, there's lots of ways to understand people's money mindsets if we're looking for them and awareness. So I think that's also important is not to ignore what's around you, is listen to the storytellings, ask the silly questions like, what do you want to do when you win the lottery, or can we use a coupon on a first date or the 10th date, whatever it is, because that's how you learn about people and you're starting to communicate on the small problems or small issues. So when the bigger ones arise, like your credit score's crap and we can't put the cell phones in your name, you know what I mean? Like, or something like that. You have the practice, you have the resilience, your muscles are ready to start those conversations. And in the book has stories and scripts to help you see how some of them can go so you're not starting from scratch.
Okay, give me one concept from the book that you think could really be game changing for our listeners.
I think the most important thing is start. That's the biggest thing is it's scary, and sometimes when we do scary things, we just don't wanna start. So, start the conversation, and if you need prompts, use the book as a prompt. "Hey," or "Listen to this podcast." "Hey, I was just listening to this great podcast," and start the conversation, or the cards or prompts, because that's gonna be the best thing is just starting to communicate and get familiar both with yourself and your relationship with money and your mindset and your future partner or family members because hey, this stays with you. We're passing it on to generations below us as well. Our kids are watching.
I think that's a fantastic bit of advice. The book comes out this week, Conversations with Your Financial Therapist, Stories and Scripts to Grow Your Mindset. Congratulations on the book, Erica. Thank you so much for being here. We will put a link to the book in the show notes.
Thank you.